Okay,
All right.
everyone claiming the last couple of spots. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
So, I'm sure you know we're really excited for tonight. Chandra doesn't do Feeding Her Demons very often. And in addition to having Chandra here doing Feeding Her Demons, I see a lot of the Tara Mandala ladies in the house tonight. So, this is going to be a very good vibe. Really happy to be doing this with you all. There are a couple of things. You're in the right thing right now, and there are a couple of other things coming up that I just want to tell you about before we start today. One is that another person from Tara Mandala, Jenny Chabelle, is doing a 4-week series on Monday nights on the 4 immeasurables, which you may also know as the Brahma Viharas or heart practices, and she is teaching them from a Vajrayana perspective. So she just started the series last night, Monday night, and it was really amazing. You can still sign up and you'll get a link to the video from last night so you can catch up. And I just highly recommend being part of this, especially if you're local and you live nearby and you can come 2 nights in a row. You got Jenny and then Chandra, Monday, Tuesday. It's a good scene. For those of you who also come to the TAF sit, I want to let you know that Michael's leading a retreat this week, so there is no TAF sit on Thursday. So don't show up. That being said, if you do show up, there will probably be a silent group sit if enough people show up. That's what happened last Thursday. And then there's one more thing I want to tell you about, which is that on Sunday we have some very special visitors from One Light Tribe. And they are doing a cacao, breath, and sound ceremony in this room. So ceremony goes from 1 to 4, and then there's an optional potluck from 4 to 6. And if you want to know more about them and what they're up to, after the sit, you can talk to Mark or Rebecca. Okay, without further ado, welcome.
Thank you, Katie. Thank you. Hi, everybody. It's good to be here with you all to feed some demons together. How many people have never done this practice before? Okay, great. Well, welcome. I know it takes some courage to come and do something with such a title. I think that you'll find it maybe not that intimidating once we get into it. Maybe you don't even find it intimidating already. So maybe what I want to do is get out of the way a little personal update, which is that I am dealing with some back issues that make it difficult for me to sit up for long periods of time. So I might be guiding some of the practice, probably like the meditation on the feeding your demons part, from a supine position. So I'm breaking the glass box of taboo against lying down and practicing, because I have to. I have no choice. And I'm sure a lot of you have probably been in situations like that in your life, and it's good to give yourself permission to listen to your body. Yeah, because it's really, we can't let these physical challenges get in the way of our practice. And as I've said a lot, the Buddha taught 4, the legend says that he taught 4, there's probably a lot more too, perhaps, but 4 main meditation postures, which are sitting, standing, walking, and lying. So lying down is a viable position. One of my main teachers, Alan Wallace, he used to always say, look, lie down if you have to, it's okay. He himself has scoliosis and has to do a lot of his retreats lying down. But I never saw him actually do it. So I always felt shy about doing it as a teacher, like, okay, I can give people permission to do it, but I'm the teacher, I have to sit up. Well, now I'm just, there's no way. I would be home if I had to do that. So yeah, and I'll explain how you can actually do feeding your demons lying down, if that's something you find in the future, if you have to do, or here tonight. Yeah, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the practice, and then I'm going to take you through it. I don't want to spend too long talking about it, because honestly, a lot of questions that come up are just answered naturally as you do the practice. But there are a few things I need to point out just to make sure, that you're kind of like show you the map before we go on the journey. And once we start the journey, you actually don't have to remember anything that I've told you. You're going to have your eyes closed, or if you don't feel comfortable closing your eyes completely, that's okay. You can just have them hooded, mostly allowing a little bit of light in. But for the most part, if you can, the eyes will be closed throughout the whole practice. And I will guide you every step of the way. So don't worry about remembering what I say. Yeah, good. It's so nice to see such a full group. So the 5 steps of feeding your demons are based on the Tibetan Buddhist shamanic practice called Chöd or Chöd. It's CHO with an umlaut, 2 dots over. It makes a sound, and then a silent D. So Chöd. It means to cut or to sever, and it refers to a practice, meditative technique that is geared towards releasing or severing our attachment onto the separate self, the sense of a solo self that exists in and of itself from its own side, not related to any causes and conditions, like a permanent soul or something. It's classic Buddhism. So the Chöd is based on the Prajnaparamita teachings of emptiness and compassion that came from India into Tibet. And those teachings were very cathartic, important for a very important figure in Tibetan Buddhism as a whole, but particularly in the Chöd lineages, which is, her name was Machig Lapdran. And she was an 11th century yogini, Tibetan yogini, who was a nun, who, like many monks and nuns, had to memorize these sutras, these Buddhist sutras, study them, commit them to memory, and recite them over and over and over again. And so what happened is while she was doing this, reciting a part of the Prajnaparamita Sutra, which means perfection of wisdom sutras, that particularly teach on emptiness and compassion, she had an epiphany when she came to a section that talked about demons. And what the sutra was saying is that demons are not some external goblins or ghouls, vampires that exist outside who are coming to get you, drink your blood, but they're actually expressions of your own mind. And when she read that, she realized, she got it. She understood that her suffering, or her fears were not necessarily, caused by external phenomena, events, people, but actually the way her mind reacted to those events, people, phenomena, right? It's actually a very empowering teaching because it gives us permission, you could say, or it invites us into taking responsibility for ourselves and our own happiness and liberation. And so this section of the Prajnaparamita Sutras that talked about demons also talked about gods. So likewise, gods are our hopes, the things we grasp for. Like, hope can be a good thing, right? Like I say recently, because I know with my health challenges, hope is very important. It can be a lifeline. We need hope. But what in Buddhism, when we talk about the mind, the conceptual mind oscillates between hope and fear, hope and fear, hope and fear, like a ping pong going back and forth, back and forth. We're talking about hopes in the sense of the things that keep us from being in the moment, from being contented with what's here right now. So the hopes that take us up and out of our seat, right? Like hope for fame or riches or the perfect partner. Things that might be more of a hindrance rather than a lifeline. So that's what they mean when they talk about hopes in this context. So Machig Lapdran took the revelation she had from that portion of the sutra, began to practice and actually decided to leave the monastery and join a wandering group of yogis and yoginis who had let go of the comforts and security of a monastery or their homes and committed to, like in India, the whole practice of a sadhu, the wandering ascetic, where you try not to sleep in the same place for more than a night or two so that you don't get attached to place or people. It's an intense practice. I don't know if I'd be able to do that. So that tradition also went to Tibet, and a lot of people were doing that. So she joined a group who was doing that, and practiced and caves and forests and mountain passes and lonely grottos, they say. And until over the years, she developed her own teaching called Chöd, severance, cutting through delusion, cutting through the ego. But really what it is cutting through our attachment, our grasping, our clinging onto a sense of ego or self. So it's not like we're cutting up the ego, which is actually could be a part of it. But we're actually cutting, what's doing this? This is, it's cutting the attachment we have onto the sense of self, our identity. Oh, I'm Chandra, and I'm a teacher, and I'm a mother, and these are important parts of my life, but it's not all that I am. And you can't always read a book by its cover, right? We're a lot of things beneath the surface. And then at the moment of death, the understanding is that we're not just the body. We are consciousness that moves from one form to another. And so that's always been the Buddhist hypothesis. That's what the Buddha taught. So if we cling to this body as who we are, then we suffer because we're grasping at that which isn't true to be true. And inherently there's a problem with that. That's like trying to grab at the rainbow, or writing on the water. It's impermanent. You can't grasp it because it's ungraspable. So there is part of the root, and of feeding your demons stems from this ancient Buddhist ritual that also implements shamanic practices from Tibet. The practice of Chöd is done with a two-sided drum held in the right hand, and then a bell played in the left hand, and then you sing liturgies, prayers. A few of us in the room know it. We practice it regularly as a healing practice, as a personal liberation practice, but it can also be done as a healing. It can be done as a healing. And, if there's enough interest, we could have a course on that here. People wanted to learn the roots of feeding your demons. I could offer a Chöd retreat or workshop. Yeah. So make that interest vocal if that's something you want. Not right now, but like after class. So there's these shamanic, the drum particularly might have shamanic roots because it's similar to the Siberian shamanic drum. So it's a larger drum than you'd find in India. It's called a damaru drum, but it's not like the traditional Indian damaru drum, which is smaller. It's larger, more like the Siberian shamanic drum. Tibetans had their own forms of it too. So fast forward 1,000 years to around now, to our teacher. A few of us in here studied with Lama Tsultrim Allione, a Western woman who became a nun at a young age, moved to Nepal and India, practiced Tibetan Buddhism, learned the Chöd, practiced it, found it very healing for her. Eventually, her teacher asked her to teach Westerners. She began to teach it for many years. And she found that while it was very healing and deep, because it's a practice that's sung in Tibetan language with these different basically it's like juggling. You're singing in a foreign language, so hopefully you've learned at least some of the vocabulary so you know what you're saying. And then you're trying to do the drum and the bell and then all the visualizations. It's a complex practice. So be careful what you ask for. But it's a beautiful practice. And so she thought, wow, God, it's such a powerful practice because of the main heart of it, the gestalt of feeding that which, the demons, feeding that which we would normally push away and invite that which we would invite those beings to a feast where we undergo our own death. It's like a shamanic journey in one sadhana, in one sitting. It's very cool. So she didn't want to lose that, but she started to explore ways she could adapt it for Westerners. And so she had therapist friends. She began to speak with her students and friends and talk to them about this. And she learned about empty chair method, Gestalt therapy, and she developed these 5 steps of feeding your demons. So feeding your demons is like Chöd in Western clothing. That's what Lama Tsultrim calls it. It's a combination of that practice of Chöd and then of Gestalt or empty chair therapy, where you will switch positions and become the demon at a certain point in the practice, and then speak as the demon. And then later, when it comes time to meet your ally, then you will switch positions and become the ally and speak as the ally. So it's not like you're going on a journey and you're imagining that you meet your demon and you imagine what it would say, or you meet your ally and you imagine what it would say. You actually switch positions and have a chance to embody the energy of the demon, to embody the energy of the ally. Feel what that's like. Maybe the demon's a curled up little angry dragon, and you're like, oh, wow, I'm really hot and I'm breathing fire, and whoa, this feels really weird, so you let yourself feel it. And I'll invite you to take a position, take an expression that helps you embody the energy of the demon. So don't hold back there. If the demon's standing up and it's really big, then you can stand up and be really big. You have your own space here. And then you do that, you get to be the demon, and then you're going to answer the questions that you had asked as the demon. It's very important. It's different than just imagining, oh, I think the demon would say that. I think the demon would feel that, but actually sitting in the seat of the demon, standing in the shoes of the demon, so to speak, speaking from that perspective. And then likewise, later, from the perspective of the resolved or the healed and integrated energy of the demon, which manifests as the ally. So then to balance things out, you get to then embody the energy of the ally and speak as the ally. And so those are the first 4 steps, take us through that. And then the 5th step, what makes this practice different than Gestalt therapy, empty chair therapy, is that it has this 5th final step, which is resting in awareness. So everything dissolves, including you, and we'll rest in awareness. And I'll guide you, I'll give you some little pointers, and then we'll sit quiet for a while. Usually in this class, it depends on how much time I have with you all. By the time we get to the 5th step, my goal is to stretch it a little longer than normal. Usually we sit for 5 minutes, because we've already sat for 30 minutes before then with the prior 4 steps. I'd like to spread that a little longer, maybe sit in awareness, that 5th step, for 10 or 15 if we can. All in all, the Feeding Your Demons 5-step arc of the whole practice takes about 30 to 40 minutes, depending on the group, depending on yourself, how fast the images come or not. One thing I want to say is, we are inviting the psyche to communicate with us via imagery. So it's like we're opening the portal for the depths of our psyche to offer us images. This is a very visual type of practice, but not in an active imagination way where you're making something, where you're visualizing a deity, creating the outline and the eyes, and you're actually letting it come based on the conditions that you're setting up through the guided process, the scaffolding of the process. Do you understand the difference? So in that way, if imagery comes up that seems weird, or like, what the hell? Why did my common analogy is, why did Minnie Mouse come as my demon? No, it must be wrong. Instead of saying, oh, that's not right, that's not holy or deep, it's just a cartoon from my childhood. That doesn't mean anything. Like, don't do that. Like, just trust. Because all of these are parts of ourselves, whether it's profound or mundane. So what I like to say is first thought, best thought, trust that, but then let that first thought have a life of its own. Like it might want to morph and change. So let it do that. Don't freeze it. Yeah. So you might be thinking, oh, wow, this is cool, but I have no idea what I want to work with. I'm going to give you a bit of time once we've done some breathing to contemplate what you want to work with. So you don't have to get it right now. You don't have to know right now. But having said that, if this is your first time, rather, you could work with a big one, a big issue. So what are demons? Right. I need to do that. Okay. Demons are what Maciej Leprin said is that which obstructs your experience of freedom. So it could be anything. It could be a thought. It could be an emotion. It could be a physical ailment. So, body, mind, or heart, emotion. Could be any of those aspects of yourself. So say if you have a thought of like, I'm a piece of shit, I'm a piece of shit. That is a thought that obstructs your experience of freedom in your life, right? I'm not good enough. You could work with that. You're going to feel it in your body, where it lives, and then give it form through the 5 steps. So really anything could be worked with. I've worked with my back pain. I've worked with headaches, so it could be a physical thing. I've worked with distraction and meditation. That's an obstacle. Have you ever gone through a period in your life where you try to sit and you just can't because your mind is... Well, that could be a demon, right? Or a hope could be like, God, I really want that job. I don't know if I'm going to get it. And it just keeps gnawing at me. That's like a hope, a wanting. Or I really want that person to love me, but they don't. That's a God. That's a hope. So the demons are the fears. The hopes are the gods. Addiction. You can work with addiction to substances, to behaviors, that craving. Yeah, we've done a lot of work with recovery community, with feeding your demons. It's very good. So if you're new to this practice, you can take something. It doesn't have to be like your big demon. It can be something maybe like on a scale from 1 to 10. If 10 is your biggest issue, your biggest wound. If you're new to this practice, maybe don't do that one tonight. Maybe do something more in the middle of the scale, something around, from 4 to 6, 7, like you're 1 to 7, whatever. Then if you like the practice, you can build familiarity with it and go deeper. There are therapists in the room who are certified, well, at least one. Gina, raise your hand, is a certified therapist and facilitator of Feeding Your Demons. She does a lot of other cool stuff too. Yeah, so if you want afterwards, you could talk to her. There are people you can find, local and abroad, who are certified and can integrate Feeding Your Demons into therapeutic work with you. Okay? So for tonight, but if you're familiar with Feeding Your Demons and you feel like you're ready to move deeply, you can do that. Lama Tsultrim often says, look, if you stay with the process, even the demon that you think was so big and so horrible and you're never going to heal from it, it's too scary. If you just trust and you take it into the 5 steps and you stay with it, it usually has this beautiful resolution, and you realize, God, it wasn't so terrifying after all. It's actually like a part of me, like my angry child or the abandoned child, or a piece of me that's actually quite tender, right? So the demons aren't these evil things. They're unintegrated aspects of ourselves. And the allies are kind of more of that wisdom aspect of ourselves. Okay, any questions? Any kind of burning thing that you need to know right now before we start? Otherwise, I'd say let the process speak for itself. Yes? I tend to not try to limit people. Like if you want to go with number 10, I think that, if it's meant to be here, it'll be here. But see, I'm guiding the group. And if you have a big thing come up, I won't be able to stop the group and come over there and check in with you. Yeah, I think, are you volunteering? No, I know you're not. So, that's you. This is you. This is you. You were touched by what I said. Yeah, Gina's like, yeah. That's mainly why, I work a lot with one-on-one with folks. And if there's like hyperventilating or something happening, we can pause and I can help midwife that. But in a group, I can't. Now, having said that, if emotion comes up, if tears come up, that's okay. Don't abandon ship. Just continue to breathe. Stay with me. Don't leave me, okay? Promise you'll stay with me here and really see this through. The 5 steps. See it through. Because even that big tsunami wave that's crashing, the big emotion wave, if you stick with the structure, the scaffolding of the 5 steps, you'll find that the resolution is so sweet. Just like a wave that crashes and finds its way back into, right? So don't think, oh no, I'm having a strong emotion, now I'm doing it all wrong, or I'm not safe. Stay, this is a safe and brave space. You're with good people here. And I've been guiding this for 15 years. I feel very comfortable doing it. I wouldn't do it if I wasn't comfortable. So just know that you're okay, even if you're not okay. Like that fun saying, you're not okay, I'm not okay, and that's okay. Yeah.
You said that the desires, like a big desire, is a god. Is that something you can work with?
Yeah, you can also work with a god. But just know that when I'm guiding the 5 steps, I'll just use the word demon. But in your mind, you can just take it as God. Just for facility, Okay. Yeah, if you find a hope that you want to work with, some big desire or hope, you can definitely. You don't even really have to know if it's a god or a demon. It just is. It's just what it is you're working with. Shall we start? Yeah, okay, let's go. So now take a moment you've got this worksheet that you can put off to the side. Don't have it on the empty seat in front of you. I want the seat in front of you to be empty of clutter, of stuff, because you're going to have your eyes closed and you're going to be switching and sitting in that spot. Also cover up your water bottles. Make sure you're not going to bump your water bottles with your knees when you switch positions. That's a little pet peeve of mine, is when there's water bottles go crashing, when we're all trying to go deep and focus. So please make sure that this, if it happens, don't worry about it. It's okay. But let's try to avoid it. Now, some of you might want to know about lying down. If you have to lie down, start on one side. Don't start on your back, because you're going to need to switch positions. So when I tell you to switch positions, you're just going to turn around and lie on your other side. Because the turning, the directional change is an important part of this process. Okay, so that's how you can do it in bed. If you can't fall asleep because you've got a demon going, then you can do that technique. Okay. So now, once we're settled, good. Let's go ahead and close our eyes and start to take some deep breaths. And we start with the 9 relaxation breaths. The first 3 breaths are breathing into any physical tension in your body. Inhale into that tension, and with the exhalation, let that tension melt into the earth beneath you. And then with your next few breaths, breathe into any emotional tension. Feel where you're holding emotional tension in your body, if any. Breathe into it, and with the out breath, releasing and letting that emotional tension melt down into the earth beneath you. And then with your next few breaths, breathe into any mental tension, any worries, thoughts, concerns. Feel where you might be holding mental tension in your body. Breathe into it, and then releasing that with the exhalation. Feel it melt down into the earth beneath you. And now let's take a moment to arouse our heartfelt motivation to practice for our own benefit and the benefit of others. Personal prayer. And then now let's take a few minutes here to sit quietly, to let ourselves land on what you'd like to work with tonight. Some helpful tips are to feel into what's up most palpably for you today, right now. What's irritating you or pressing your buttons? Did you have an argument or a setback? Giving yourself some time. Something gnawing at you, eating at you, something you'd like to resolve or learn from. And if you have more than one here, then just Land on one to work with tonight for the sake of the practice. You can work with the others later. And once you've decided which so-called demon you're going to work with tonight, feel where it lives most strongly in your body. Is it in one spot in particular? Is it spread out? It might be in a couple places. Where does this energy live most strongly in your body? And then notice the shape of this feeling. What is its color? What is its texture? Is it jagged, sharp, or smooth, metallic? What is its density? Is it really dense, like a rock, or your body, or is it effervescent or light? And what is its temperature? Is it hot, cold, warm, neutral? And now intensify this feeling for a moment. It can be helpful to remember a time when you felt it strongly. And then allow this feeling, texture, and so on to now leave your body and take form as a being in front of you. So you can make a gesture with your hands, helping that energy move out of the body temporarily and becoming personified as a being with a face, eyes, limbs, and so on, because we're going to dialogue with it. If an inanimate object appears, then imagine what it would look like if it were personified as a being. And notice what you see. What is its size? Its color. The texture of its skin. Its density. And does it have a gender? What is its character? Its emotional state. What is the look in its eyes? And now notice something about this demon that you haven't seen before. Something you didn't see yet. And now you'll ask this being 3 questions. I'll offer you the questions and you can repeat after me one by one. not waiting for the answer, because after you've asked the questions, you'll switch positions and become the demon and answer as the demon. So you can repeat after me out loud. What do you want?
What do you want?
What do you really need?
What do you really need?
How will you feel when you get what you really need?
How will you feel when you get what you really need?
Good. Now slowly switch to the other empty seat, keeping your eyes closed as much as possible, and turn to face your original seat. And take a moment to settle in to the demon's body. Feel free to take a gesture, an expression, a position that helps you embody the energy of the demon. And notice how it feels to be the demon now. And notice how your normal self looks from the demon's point of view. And now you'll answer those questions speaking as the demon. I'll give you the beginning of each answer and you can complete in a full sentence, but this time quietly, internally, answering quietly to yourself. Speaking as the demon now. What I want is, what I want is, what I really need is. This is the deeper need beneath the want. What I really need is. And when I get what I really need, I will feel. When I get what I really need, I will feel. And remember the answer to this third question, the feeling you would have when you got what you really need. Ask the demon. Remember that feeling. And then when you're ready, go ahead and switch back to your original spot. And take a moment to settle back into your normal body. And see the demon in front of you again. And now imagine that you either dissolve your body into nectar or that you create an infinite supply of nectar in any way that comes to you. And this nectar flows from you to the demon, feeding it to complete satisfaction. So either your body transforms into nectar, which is a bit more of the traditional Chöd way, or you can simply imagine that you create an infinite supply of nectar. In either case, the nectar has the quality of the feeling the demon would have when it got what it really needed, the answer to that third question. And feel, sense, see this nectar flowing from you to the demon, feeding it to complete satisfaction. This can take some time. The nectar might be light, it could be liquid, it could be rain, it could be a big pool of water, it could be anything. And notice how the demon takes the nectar in. And notice the color of the nectar. Notice how it feels to offer the demon this nectar that has the feeling it would have when it got what it deeply, deeply needed. The feeling. And feed it to complete satisfaction. Perhaps up until now you fought it or resisted it. So now you're trying something new. You're offering it your attention, your compassion, your nectar. Feeding it to complete satisfaction. And notice, does this being shapeshift? Does it change size? Does it dissolve or disappear altogether? When it's satisfied, notice. When this demon is completely satisfied, does the being remain? And if it feels like this being will never be satisfied, for the sake of our group rhythm, I'll invite you to imagine what it would look like if it were completely satisfied. And notice what you see now. If a being remains, ask, are you my ally? If it says no, or no being remains, then invite an ally to appear now before you. Invite an ally to appear. And notice what you see. What is its size? Its color? The texture of its skin? Its density? Does it have a gender? What is its character? What is its emotional state? The look in its eyes? And now notice something about the ally you didn't see before. And now you'll ask the ally some questions, repeating after me one by one, just like before, out loud. How will you help me?
How will you help me?
How will you protect me?
How will you protect me?
What pledge or commitment do you make to me?
What pledge or commitment do you make to me?
And how can I access you?
How can I access you?
Good. Now switching positions and becoming the ally. Facing your original seat. And take a moment to settle into the ally's body. Taking a gesture, position, expression that helps you embody the energy of the ally. And notice how it feels to be in the ally's body. And how does your normal self look from the ally's point of view? Really let yourself feel what it's like to be the ally now. Now you'll answer those questions speaking as the ally. I'll offer the beginning and you can complete in a full sentence quietly to yourself in silence. Speaking as the ally. I will help you by. I will protect you by. I pledge I will. and you can access me by. Is there anything else you'd like to say, speaking as the ally? And now when you're ready, slowly switch back to your original seat for the last time and take a moment to settle back into your normal self. And see the ally in front of you once again and feel the protection, the power, the benevolence of the ally flowing into you. The energy of the ally flows into you, filling the crown of the head and flowing down, down, like water, filling your body, filling the torso, the arms, down into the legs, all the way to the soles of the feet. And then imagine that the ally then dissolves into blissful, radiant light. And notice the color of that light. And the light then dissolves into you, filling every cell of your body with light. And then you and the integrated energy of the ally dissolve into light. No longer bound by the physical form. Allow yourself to rest in awareness, wakeful, radiant, without a center or periphery. Just let your awareness rest in its own place. The fifth step. We'll spend some time here. A natural arriving into meditation. Unforced, uncontrived. This quality of being. Releasing into presence. distraction arises, just notice and let the distracting thoughts dissolve back into the space of awareness and rest. Rest in that spaciousness. And now slowly begin to come back to your body. And feel the breath in your belly. Clothes against your skin. And recall the feeling of the integrated energy of the ally in your body. And then when you're ready, slowly begin to open your eyes. I thought I'd let you all flop back for a minute or two just to totally détendu, let it all go. Just if you're already on the ground, good, you're there. But just a minute or two, just flop back and let yourself integrate this journey even on a deeper level. No, it's totally relaxed. And notice how you feel. How you feel now compared to how you felt when you walked in. About 5 more breaths here. See if you can let go even more deeply. Are you holding anything, any tension? Let it go. And when you want to, you can hug one knee and then the other. Keep it safe for the low back. If you want to roll over onto one side and come up that way, you can. We'll come back together here. So you have this journaling sheet. We're not going to use it as a group tonight. Some nights there's enough time for you to take 5-10 minutes to journal. But instead, take it home with you. And if you want to, when you get home, have a look at it. And it can be a framework for some reflection, some journaling at home. Okay? I wanted to sit longer, so I thought, let's you worked hard to get to the feast, so I wanted to let you eat, which is the 5th step. Meditate. Did you feel some ease gliding into meditation like that after? I like to call it like doing some internal housekeeping. You've dusted off a couple demons, you're maybe you're a little more settled and at peace because you attended to things. You feel that? Is that nice? Yeah. Sometimes we sit down from our busy life, we sit down to meditate and we don't have a chance. We have no fighting chance because we're so swirling. It takes even just 20 minutes to get the mind to settle. So this is another way. It's all like, warm up for step 5's really the most important step. And that's what differentiates this from therapy. This is what the 5th step is, what makes it Buddhist. Okay, so we have about 10 minutes for questions, comments. It's really wonderful to hear from the group. What imagery came to you? Anything I can clear up for you if you're confused about something? Sometimes, when you're sharing about your process, you could also just, you don't have to tell us exactly what you were working with. You can share with imagery, like, oh, my demon, I thought it was going to be so horrible, but really it was this, baby with fangs or something, like it's kind of maybe harmless or not. But you know what I mean? So sharing through imagery can be a way to share, but not, overshare if you don't want to. But you can overshare. But maybe try to be concise so more people have a chance to share if they want to share. So overshare with concision, if that's a word. Precision. Yes, I say your name too.
My name is Keon.
Keon.
And the imagery I was sitting with was a yellow Gila monster.
Yellow Gila monster.
It was interesting as you were talking about creating a mentor and walking us through that. The only imagery I could see with this little dragon monster thing was it disintegrating and it kind of calcified over and breaking into pieces. And I was trying not to judge the imagery and just kind of go with it. And I was like, it's not changing shape, it's not anything, it's just kind of just destroying itself.
Yeah.
And I found that especially powerful on my own. And then you started mentioning, imagine it disintegrating. It was just funny that I found it interesting that I naturally went there.
Yeah.
I didn't even.
Right. But you didn't judge, you said, or at least you tried not to judge. Yeah, you let it go.
Yeah, but it felt like letting go, which is I think what it was
Do
trying
you,
to take me.
nice. That's great. And then do you want to share what the imagery of the ally was?
Yeah, so I was thinking of it was shape shifting a little bit as it was disintegrating, but both at the same time, and it turned into a little pink corn snake.
Nice. How did it feel to embody the pink corn snake? Warmer. Yeah, right. Very cool. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah. Yes. And say your name. And
Hi, I'm Eric.
hi, Eric.
First of all, big gratitude because I happen to be working with some like core trauma stuff, and I had no idea this is what was going on tonight. I was like, "Well, isn't this serendipitous?" Thanks. I'm like doing a lot of deep work, but not like this.
Cool.
So, but both sides of mine were surprisingly literal. Like there was an interaction with myself and 3 people that triggered this kind of like core thing.
Mm-hmm.
And at first it was kind of like sneakish with personified, like very clearly personified stuff. But then it just straight up turned into the actual scenario, and I didn't resist it. Like it was like surreal and like, but it got very literal.
Right.
And it
I
was
see.
me being hurt by my inner child being hurt by the actions, right?
Sure.
And I just rolled with it, and like, I mean, I also took liberties on the flip side of it, like because then like eventually all of the demons kind of just morphed into like my little scared wounded kid, right?
Yeah.
And then it was like I forget what it was, but basically all of a sudden it's like what would it be like if you or when I was feeding this one when I was
Right.
the nectar wasn't cutting it for me, and he was like, "Dude, I need a fucking hug." Like,
Great.
and I was like,
Yes.
all right. Like,
Yes.
And then my mom stepped out of nowhere. I was like,
Wait, what?
then my mom stepped out of nowhere.
Out
I
of
was like,
nowhere.
"Hey."
I thought you said out in her underwear. I was like,
Well, what's funny is I was like half crying and half on the verge of hysterical laughter because she was hella goofy.
Yeah.
Like in life, and I was just like,
Lucky you.
Like,
Yeah.
like I was on the verge of like hysterical laughter while I had tears coming.
Oh, my
It
goodness.
was bizarre. That was really cathartic.
Yeah. Good. Well, good. So even though it was a bit sidewinding or, a lot of different stuff coming up, but then kind of resolving and exploding, opening and then it feels like it was, you said cathartic. It was
incredibly cathartic.
cool.
Like all this energy that I was carrying when I walked in here that already loosened up a lot from the other work that I'm doing, but there was a lot of residual there.
Yeah.
There was a cleansing.
Good.
But it's okay to get too literal and to take liberty with the nectar.
Thank you for your comments, because what I didn't touch on, which I often do, I just forgot when I'm introducing this practice, is I'm not saying you did it wrong or anything, but because this is your first time, it makes sense that you could have stumbled into a more literal thing. But generally what we say is that if you're working with a person, a challenging scenario or dynamic with another person or other people, that person or those people are not the demon.
Right.
It's our reaction to that person or people that is the demon that we can work with. We're working. So if it's anger or sadness or hurt or jealousy, I'm feeling that. I can work with what I'm feeling. So that becomes the demon. Just not like the ex or the boss or, they're not the demon. So it's a good teaching point to just clarify that for everybody. If you're working with people, they're not the demon. Okay. Yeah.
Well, it's like I kind of had to imagine the scenario to really bring it back up.
Well, yeah, there's even a point where I say it can be helpful to imagine when it happened to you last.
And then it just never but I see what you're saying, like whatever that residual energy was, personify that into something, because it is true, and that was the whole point of all of it was I was not blaming them ultimately.
Yeah, you got it. Intuitively you got it because you've done work around it, so you were able to navigate that. But no, to your credit, you navigated that really well without the tool that I should have given you. I'm glad you asked. Yeah. Maybe one or two more. Yes. And say your name. And then.
I'm Susie.
Hi, Susie.
And I've been doing this practice for a few years, and I get really involved in the visual imagery.
Yeah.
And the question that I tend to bypass or just not really invest in is the texture of the skin, or I don't even know what words you use, but I got really into that this time. It was a physical thing that I was working with, and it was I gave myself permission to actually reach out and touch the demon and feel, and I had a very clear feeling of what the skin was like and how the skin changed when it became the ally. The skin of the demon was very hot and raw and sensitive, and then the skin of the ally was still fleshy, but it was pink and it was soft, and it was really interesting to go there with that particular detail.
That's really cool. That's the first time anybody's ever said that. It's neat to hear that. That's great. I love that. What you're bringing up also reminds me of a new element that Lama Tsultrim's been integrating, which is to notice the environment. So in terms of like really honing in on kind of a new piece, you could also, if you did this again, you could also like notice the environment that the demon's in, notice the environment that the ally's in. So then when you become it, how does that feel to be in that environment? But that's really cool about the texture of the skin. It's really neat, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah. Like, sometimes it's feathers, sometimes it's scales. It doesn't have to be always human, right? It could be I had the Tin Man in The Wizard of Oz was one of my demons. And so he was smooth like metal, so it also invites us to connect. And I love that you reached out to touch it. That's really cool. And I love that you reached out to hug. That's great. Any of that, all of that's great. Whatever helps enliven it and help you feel connected with it. Yeah. Yes.
First, Eric, I just want to say the previous time I did this, I had like a weirdly similar experience to you around core trauma and my inner child and dissolving in a hug. So I just wanted to relate first.
Thank you.
Yeah, very weirdly, specifically similar.
Share your name for folks.
Sorry, I'm Peter.
Peter.
I'm pro at oversharing. So the second thing I just want to share, something that was new, is like there were so I've done this a few times. Still feel like a super beginner at it. The transitions were like very, very like cinematic this time. Previously, it was like this happened, and then it was like, okay, now we're at this part. But the whole thing felt like this cinematic in like a movie or video game, where like first it was like the thing coming out of me was like one fluid movement, and it was this like beating, throbbing heart muscle with like spikes, but it felt like it was coming out of me. And then I like imagined or heard like music playing, like cue the entrance of the demon, and there was like because it transitioned into the demon. I was like, and it was really cool. The demon was like badass, like demon, like satanic, like 4 wings. So it was like, and metal was playing in my head. So I was like, this is nuts. It was so much. Just wanted to share.
That's so cool. I love that. You didn't tell us, but with your hand, you told us where it came out of. Yeah, it came out of.
Oh, God.
That's cool. Yeah. Yeah. Could we ever have imagined? Like, could you have? Yeah.
I'm gonna have to go. I was like, I need to go play that on my guitar.
Yeah, maybe do a voice memo and remember the melody ring. Like right now, do it. I'm joking. Yeah. Thanks. Yeah, that's great. Okay, gosh. Yeah. What?
Oh
No.
This was funny.
Yeah.
Although you mentioned the environment thing.
Yeah. And sounds. You could notice the sounds.
I realized that with my ally, I didn't have a creature first. I had just the environment of water first, and then the creature came out of it after some time.
Very cool.
Which was very cool because I think more connected to the water element, and then to like spend time with that, and then to get connected to the ally. It just felt like a good transition. Yes. Did you guys hear her? No? Would you turn around and do you want to say
kind of
Sure.
concisely, or I could paraphrase. But
Oh yeah, I connected first to the environment of like water before the ally came.
And the LA came out of the
Yeah,
water.
out of the water.
Okay, yes, great. That's cool. I mean, Jung said the water represents the unconscious.
Oh.
So you know, I don't know. I'm not a specialist, but that's kind of neat. Okay, everybody, I think it's time. I'll let you go. Let's just take a moment to drop back in, close our eyes, and we'll dedicate the merit with the sound of the bell 3 times. As you hear the sound of the bell, imagine that any positive energy, any blessings or merit that we've cultivated as individuals and a collective radiates out in all directions, filling all of space. Thank you, everybody, for your courage and your sincerity and your commitment to your growth. I hope you enjoyed it. Normally I stay after and take questions one-on-one or ask people to introduce themselves, but because of my health situation, I find like basically my alarm's going off right now, my back alarm. I need to start to move towards home, so I won't stay. But please stay with each other. There's tea and wonderful people. Make new friends, meet your Sangha, your community, and talk about your demons and your allies. If you want to learn more about my work, just my website is chandraeaston.com. I've got retreats, I've got other classes, online courses, all sorts of stuff like that. Love to see you there. Yeah, Mount Madonna in February. Let me turn this.
Just because I happen to be here and I love it. We had talked about it earlier, and I was like, you haven't heard this feedback because you haven't been here, but it's like really, really. Okay, good. Yes. I know. I'm like, I know it feels like I'm like, this for me, but it is. It's really. My universe is for me, so I love it. Mike Rogers. Yeah.